We're here. RC8B4e unboxing day. So if you haven't seen, we've already unboxed the B4 Nitro kit. So we'll put this one to the side and let's unbox the new B4e. So I'm actually pretty excited about this unboxing. They've changed a whole bunch of stuff on this car just like the Nitro, but a lot of chassis changes with this one too. So battery config and stuff like that. But we'll get into that. So first things first, we'll start pulling bags out of the box and go from there. So we have the new radio box, so the lid, the base, and a new ESC receiver plate by the looks of it. A little bit different. You do get the grommets just like the B3, B31, all of that fun jazz. Next up, the motor mount and center diff. So this is a brand spanking new clamshell style motor mount, and still a split center diff, so super easy to do your maintenance and stuff like that. And you do get an aluminum top plate there. And this one still is going to be like a Nitro, where you use the big button screws on the bottom to kind of slide everything over. So kind of nice. Next up, we have the new rear arms, the new C&D block, shock tower, hinge pins. So just like the front arms, these do come with inserts if you want to put them in. There's three different inserts: plastic, graphite, or G10 Garolite. So you do have some options there. Next thing up is probably the most anticipated thing, in my opinion, other than the front end changes, is the dual battery pack. So this actually runs dual 2S shorties. So it kind of mimics the weight of the Nitro, makes the car a little bit more aggressive. And from what we found last year doing all the XB8 20 versus 21 stuff, the double 2S shorty packs definitely seem to be better for both of us. I know I got Sean behind the camera. He is a Team X-Ray driver, and we did both back-to-back testing, and I think we both came to the conclusion that the double shorty pack jumped better, handled the bumps a little bit better. It was easier to cross setups over if you're running Nitro and electric. So that was the one thing that I did really like about the saddle packs, or the dual shorties, and this is exactly what Associated's bringing us this year too, just like the XB8 E21. So next thing up is the brand spanking new steering knuckles. So these have a 8-degree KPI, so kingpin inclination. So they definitely don't have the offset back like the old ones do. So they did change the geometry there. These ones are still gonna come with the steel pillow balls, just like the Nitro cars, just like all the B3, B31, B32s. This is definitely an upgrade that we like to do as well. Do the aluminum ones, the factory teams. We'll have those in the description box or the part number down below. They definitely do add a little bit more steering to the car, make it a little bit more agile, and it seems to be a pretty common thing to change. Next thing up, sway bar. This is going to be the new front sway bar 2.2, and it does come with this nice aluminum collar now for your spacer, so it's not flopping around. So just the hardware for that. This is the brand spanking new wing mount, not as spindly, way stronger compared to the old wing mount, and then you also get some of the angled plates. Brand new gearbox, so just like the Nitro, this runs a 6x13 flanged bearing, so if you do have any old RC8B31, 32, anything like that that ran the 6x12 non-flanged, make sure you stock up on those. They should be tougher because they are a bigger bearing, but at the end of the day, if you got them, and you need them at the track, and they're for the old car, they ain't gonna work. So you definitely wanna upgrade that. This is the new front bulkhead, so same as the rear. You are gonna have the 6x13 flange bearings in there now. New front and rear chassis brace, and the new mount, and then all the pills in this bag. So nothing too crazy there.
They did change the angle of the pinion on that front bulkhead as well.
Correct. They actually flattened it out or angled it up like 5 degrees versus having it flat. So that center front drive shaft shouldn't be at such an angle and shouldn't cause the binding in the drivetrain like we've seen before. And if you did have any of the old RC8s, like the B31, B32, a lot of people were complaining about front drive pins actually wearing out because of that high angle. So they did flatten that out quite a bit on the new B4 platforms, both Nitro and electric. So good catch on that. This is where a lot of the new stuff is coming in. So along with the steering knuckles, they also changed lower and upper arms. So again, these do have the inserts that you can buy 3 different styles. So plastic, the G10 Garolite, or the carbon. These ones will include the winglets, I'm going to call them. So they include these guys right here. I'll just twist it off the parts tray. You can see that it actually has a little bit of a wing to it. You can get it. They have a wing to it, and they also come with this too. So this is a new thing on the new B4. You're actually going to get arm inserts. So these are highly recommended to glue into the upper arm. Associated was kind of marketing as a changeable option, like something you could buy separate, but you have to buy them with the upper arms. And since you do glue them in, they're really not something you can replace easily. So take that for what it's worth, but that was just my 2 cents on what I gathered. Other than that, you are going to get the shock standoffs and the new shock tower. And then you're also going to get that new front center dog bone. So no more universal there. Next up is the new rear hub carriers with something I'm going to say more traditional to the 10 scale with the hub inserts for doing your roll center up and down. And then you are going to get 3 positions for your link. The other thing they did take away on the new car is, if you remember on your B3, 1, 2, wherever you're at, the steering knuckles and the rear hub carriers actually used to have a grub screw in there. So if you were oiling your bearings, you could take that grub screw out, throw a couple dabs of oil in there. They molded over that for this year. So that is one thing. You're going to get captured hinge pins, pre-standard on everything new car-wise. Another new item is the wing. So this is a brand spanking new wing. It is really, really lightweight, still flexible, just like the previous versions. The one thing that does change is the wing buttons. So now you get a molded one-piece wing button, and you also get a one-piece wing button winglet. So this does add another vein to the center of the wing. I noticed, guys, we're cutting it out, actually cutting here, and they do have dimples on the back side, so if you want to use a body reamer, at least you have something to start with for drilling that out for a little bit of weight reduction. You're going to get your shock oil and diff oil, so 5,000, 10,000, 40, and 45 weight shock oil, and then you are going to get some black grease for building diffs. Next up, rear sway bar 2.4, so sway bars on this kit are just like the Nitro. 2.2 in the front, 2.4 in the back. Brand spanking new body. So this is one thing I will say that now mimics a lot more of what Techno used to do. Techno had a very drastically narrower chassis on all the electric platforms versus the Nitros, and Associated kind of followed suit. So now, not having that big brick 4S pack, they can narrow it up, and you can run the narrow bodies. If you have, say, a B4 and you like that body style, or you have some old S15s, if you buy the Nitro side guards, you can now bring that chassis out a little bit and run the wider bodies. So just a heads up there, we'll throw that down in the description box for part numbers. The other thing that these are going to include is your standard traditional, like I'm going to call it nose or gearbox cover, or it does have a winglet style gearbox cover. And it also comes with another one, which the Nitro did not come with. So a little bit different. I would say a lot more of a more aggressive angle to the electric car versus the Nitro. The Nitro was pretty, like, I'm going to say like almost a bubble cab. It wasn't quite as sharp and as angled as the
much
E-car.
more angular on the electric
like
body,
sharp
for sure.
lines for sure. So
Yeah.
a little bit different. Getting into the gears here for ring gears and differentials. One thing with this car that kind of changes if you're used to the B3, B31, B32 platforms is the outdrives. So those cars ran a 17 and a 15. These are 15 all the way around, so much easier for doing diffs and things like that. A lot of flange bearings in here, so this is your whole bearing pack in that gearbox as well. Next up, get some shocks. So you are going to get the tie-dye coated shock shafts just like you do in the Nitro kit. These are honestly awesome to get you on the track and running. For maintenance longevity, we do usually run the chrome shafts. They're easier to polish up and keep running smooth and friction-free. They are going to include new plastics. So we haven't got to the turnbuckles yet, but the new plastics is going to be so much better. We're so excited for this hard plastic. This is very similar to what Element RC and Enduros are doing on all of their crawlers is this super hard plastic. So now with that hard plastic, all the rod ends for the brake linkages and everything, tie rod wise, shock wise in the B4 and the B4e are going to be this plastics. Other thing that changes is the spring retainer on the bottom. The rod end is going to now be captured, so you throw a screw through the spring cup and the rod end. So no more losing spring retainers. So really handy. You are gonna get the emulsion shock caps, and then they do come with the firm bladders. If you want to run emulsion, there is a little, essentially just like a gasket that you can buy. It's like 81184, I think is the partner, but we'll throw that down below if you do want to run these true emulsion with the bleeder screw. So this is more what we were talking about. It's a little bit easier to see in this package. So if you grab the gearboxes here, that's just your factory black plastic. The new gray silver plastic is gonna give you a couple things. More longevity, they're not gonna slop out as fast, and they shouldn't oval out as bad and cause the binding as the old style ones did. The one thing I will say is a huge side note with this, if you are gonna chuck these into a drill or try to thread them by hand, make sure to use a lot of black grease, chapstick, something like that for lubrication on cutting the threads, because this stuff is extraordinarily hard to cut threads into. So please make sure to add a little bit of lubrication because it will make your life 10,000 times easier. Next up, a lot of more new parts here. So this is all the new steering bell cranks and new Ackerman plate. So no more angle to the Ackerman plate, it's actually a flat Ackerman plate. They also changed your Servo Saver Arm and your Servo Saver itself. If you do have one of these Servo Savers from a B3, B31, B32, they're not the same. You will have to buy the new part number in aluminum. That will also be down below. There is going to be new side guards. So these are very shallow and very narrow in comparison to what we've seen on the Nitro. So this is where they gain a lot of that width savings. So if you, like I said, if you do want to run a wider S15 body, the Nitro body, you can just toss the Nitro side guards on the e-car and run something you already have. Next thing up is servo horn and inserts. I don't really know why they give you a Nitro brake linkage, but they do. So kind of random there, but it is what it is. We always go to an aluminum horn anyway. And last thing in the box is chassis. Next up is the new chassis. This is new. Motor now sits here, and like I said, it does use the same kind of setup as the Nitro, so it uses the big M4 bolts and the countersunk washers. New chassis. The nice part is Associated always indents the chassis, so you know which side to put your ring gear on. So super handy. A little bit darker than some of the other Team Associated chassis we've had in the past. And another cool thing they do now is they also thread the chassis for the side guard screws. So super handy that way. So nice chassis, and then they do recess the chassis for the C and the D block as well. So that's the chassis. Last thing up, manual. So manual, nothing's really changed there. Still black and white. Extra fold for the screws, nothing too crazy there. Some decals, because everyone loves decals. You are gonna get some double-sided tape, window masks, and a Team Associated catalog for some of the cool new stuff coming out. And yeah, that's about it. That's all we got. So if you have any comments or anything about the new RC8B4e, throw them down below. We are going to have our optional setup parts and things like that we're going to throw in the kit if you want to check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.